Everybody, welcome back to Players Perspective. Today we have a special guest, Mike Tannenbaum. Mike was a general manager for the New York Jets, executive vice president for the Miami Dolphins, founder of the 33rd Team, an NFL think tank, and doing some incredible work, and now a current NFL insider for ESPN. Mike, really appreciate you joining Henry and myself today.
Good morning, guys. Great to be with you, and congrats on all your success, not only on the field but off the field. It's rare to have a Super Bowl champion do what you've been able to do off the field as well.
I appreciate that, Mike T. Well, I want to get into it right away, man, and just really talk about just your perspective as a general manager, just being in the NFL. You've probably been in the NFL for what, 30, 35 years?
It's been a couple minutes.
I want to know right now just what you think, because we are Broncos focused, what you think about Sean Payton's first couple years as a head coach and what he's done so far.
I think he's done an incredible job. I think he's someone that is clearly comfortable in his own skin, very authentic. I think the easy thing would have been to say, I'm going to ride or die with Russell Wilson. He's getting paid all this guaranteed money. The organization gave up a lot of picks, and he's going to be our guy. But, Coach Payton and I have the same mentor, Coach Parcells, and I know they speak all the time as well. And Coach Parcells would just talk a lot about things like, hey, we go by what we see, and the standard is the standard. And when your standard is unyielding, be it for the equipment manager, the assistant trainer, the star quarterback, that's how you have organizational excellence. And I really appreciate Coach Payton's approach because it's been unyielding, and that leads to championships. And look, they have more work to be done. But if we were sitting here 2 years ago and saying, hey, you have a Super Bowl winning head coach, you have a dynamic young quarterback who has a tremendous upside from a Bronco perspective, I think anybody would be thrilled with that.
Can you talk a little bit about... Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead, Henry.
As somebody who gets to listen to Sean talk, ask him questions a few times a week, you say we go by what we see. Again, that's the exact line that he throws out there all the time, especially this time of year. I'm just curious, what's it like working with a Bill Parcells? Because that's a very unique kind of coach. Again, from an outside perspective, it sure looks like he's very similar to Sean Payton.
So day one, Coach Parcells actually hired me kind of in weird circumstances because he was transitioning to the Jets. So to be candid, he kind of hired me sight unseen, really without even an interview. I was recommended by Coach Belichick and Scott Pioli, and I sit down with him. Literally the first time I had ever met the man. I had grown up in the Northeast. I was scared to death of him, scared to death. I had been working for the Saints, went to Tulane Law School. And he goes, Mr. T, is it okay if I call you Mr. T? Yes, sir. When the trapper comes off the side of the mountain, you don't have to ask the son of a bitch if he's a good trapper. You just see if he has any pelts on him. Meanwhile, I'm not even sure what a trapper is, but I'm like, yes, sir. He's like, we go by what we see. Your job is to sign professional football players to contracts. If you do a great job, you're going to be able to stick around. If not, I'm going to ship your ass home. Do you have any questions? No, sir. Go to your office and get to work. Literally, that was the first conversation I ever had with him. And I'm fortunate enough to speak to him very often now, and nothing's changed. The standards are the standards. We go by what we see. And if you love football, guys, take 8 minutes, go to YouTube, and listen to Bill Parcells' induction speech into Canton, Ohio, because I will tell you, it's everything what's great about our country. He talks about how the doors to a locker room are wide open, and we don't care if you're, white, black, gay, straight, Republican, Democrat. We want you to come in. But we are a meritocracy. We are a self-selective organism. And if you can help us win, you're going to stay. And if you're not, we're going to kick your ass out. And that's really what at its core it's all about. And you see with Sean every day, like, he does not give a shit how you got there. He doesn't care how much money you don't make. You don't care if you voted for Trump or Kamala Harris. He doesn't care. Like, can you help him win football games? That's the standard.
Mike, I really appreciate that insight, and it actually brings me back. I've shared this before, but I had the pleasure of playing for Sean Payton in 2020. Drew Brees comes out here to work out with Emmanuel Sanders, and I show up to the workout. This is during COVID, and Drew's like, we need to sign you. We need, a fourth, fifth receiver. We're trying to win another Super Bowl before he retires. I have my first meeting with Sean, and Sean says, you've been a B plus player. You've been an okay player, but you need to be an A plus special teams player. And I'll try to get a way to get you in on offense, but don't expect the ball. Here's the salary cap. There's just who's getting the ball. Do you have a problem with that? I was like, absolutely not. I'm okay with that. But he helps you see the vision of, hey, you can be a part of a Super Bowl winning team. It's going to be on special teams. Are you okay with that role? And if not, then I'll find you another place. You don't have to be here. So it's fun to hear that.
I mean,
I think, yeah, go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, and I think it takes a lot of the gray out, just in terms of running a team. It's there's no ambiguity, where you stand. Coach Parcells brought me to my knees and to tears, and then like the next day, I felt like I was the smartest guy on the planet.
Yeah, you gotta love that.
From a George Payton perspective, though, as like a GM, dealing with a coach like that, and that's a unique experience too, right? Because there are a lot of places where the GM has maybe a little bit more power, a little bit more control than George Payton does in Denver.
Yeah, I gotta tell you though, like for at least in the formative years of my career, guys, like I wouldn't trade for the world. Like I learned so much more about life and like, being a great listener and being prepared, understanding what the other side wants, needs. And from a team building standpoint, the combination of him and Coach Belichick, they would literally, like what Benny just talked about, like we talk about a fourth round receiver, like how's he going to make the team? How's he going to get to the game? Who's he going to be out? What's his upside? What's his role? Is he a receiver? Is he a slot receiver? What's the fourth down value? And then like you juxtapose that from team building, from contracts and depth charts. There's just a lot of wisdom that goes into it. And I felt like the definition of being a GM was being the point guard of information. I always felt like, as complicated and challenging as the job was, if I could look to the left and the right and look at the head coach and owner and we were on the same page, that's all that mattered. So regardless of like what we did, I felt like I was doing my job well if we all understood the context of those decisions.
Mike T, Broncos have had, I would say, a really good offseason, signing Evan Ingram, Dre Greenlaw, Talanoa Hufanga, Trent Sherfield. Talk a little bit about the Broncos offseason and just from your perspective, how you think they've done.
Benny, it's funny. I think it's very germane to what we're talking about. Like, let's go into that first game plan meeting on Wednesday before opening day, and it's going to sound something like this, like, hey, Bo, we got a really good defense, and we added two great players from the 49ers. You're not going to lose the game. And you're going to spit the ball down to, I think, Marion Hampton, who they're going to take in the first round. And you're going to spit the ball down to Evan Ingram, and you're not going to turn it over, and we're going to win a lot of games. You have any questions, Bo? I mean, you could see the way he's built this team. The interesting part about the Broncos to me, guys, is they can go beat Kansas City because if they were playing 4 out of 7, I'm taking Kansas City. They're a more talented team. There's no question about that. But one game, and by the way, like I am an unabashed, huge Vance Joseph fan. Worked with him in Miami. We just interviewed him for the Jet job. He'll be a head coach again in short order. You got a great defense. You got a great defensive coordinator. I think their defense got better. And this is going to be a team that no one's going to want to play.
Yeah, love that.
Henry. Yeah, I'm curious what you think of just like the strategy of building the team that way, because last year the defense was kind of what got them to the point they got to. One of the 5 best defenses in the NFL, more sacks than anybody. The offense, they had a couple categories where they were pretty good, but for the most part, maybe a little bit middle of the pack. Then in free agency, you go and spend most of your money on the defensive side of the ball. Like it's a little bit counterintuitive.
Yeah. And you look at guys like Cooper, Benito, like I think their best days are ahead of them. Look, that defense, their front 7 is outstanding. Secondary is really good. I think sometimes, and this is like a compliment. So as it like, I'm not sure if the word is like hubris, but I'm sure Sean's thinking like, pay the defense, I'll coach up the offense. Like I don't have to spend a lot of money on a receiver. I know what I want. Like Ben, you already touched on it. Like I know the roles. Certainly with the backs in the draft this year, you're not going to pay it back, in free agency. So I'm sure in his mind, he's like, hey, we got to get Kansas City off the field. We got to get the Chargers off the field. These are those two players from the 49ers like are great character guys as well. So I do think it fits in with high football character. But I agree though, Henry, like it kind of caught my attention, like, oh, I didn't think that was going to happen, but boy, that makes a lot of sense.
Mhm.
Now, Mike, I'd love for you to just share your perspective on Bo as a rookie, and then now how Sean Payton and George Payton are talking together on how to build a team with a quarterback that's on a rookie contract.
Yeah, I was a little bit low on Bo Nix. He throws the ball better than I thought, and he's a better athlete. And I think, one of the sayings is the tape sets the floor and the character sets the ceiling. This is an improved football player from his days at Auburn. Um, you don't have to talk to Bo Nix to know that he loves football and he's a gym rat. Like, you can't get better without being somebody that really works at his craft. So I think he's going to continue to get better. Again, is he Patrick Mahomes? No, but I think he has a chance to be really good. This is typically, and I'm generalizing here, guys, but typically you see a massive jump between year one and year two. When you talk to players, Ben, you've been through it. You're consumed with the draft process now. Like, he's in the system, he's working on his body. I think he's going to get better, and he's a better player than I thought he'd be.
Amazing. Well, Broncos country loves to hear that. Henry, you got a question?
Yeah, no, I've thought the same thing. I was a little bit surprised too. I was a little bit lower on him, and then Broncos fans weren't too thrilled when they drafted him. Well, weren't thrilled with me for saying what I said. But now he looks like he's playing well. I'm curious where that step comes from, because it seems like last year Lavich is learning the system, figuring out like first read here, second read here, third, and here's where we go with the ball. Is this year more of just like a get a feel for the game, like learn how to go out there, know your moments where you push, know your moments where you kind of hold back a little bit, or where does that growth come from?
Yeah, I think where we'll see the growth, it should be like, to me, like the accuracy, especially down the field, because typically guys are going to get, again, with the offseason, they're going to get strong. Like, you look at, now look, Jalen Hurts was a big guy coming out, but you look at Jalen Hurts from the waist down, that's a grown man, right? You look at Justin Herbert from the waist down, that's a grown man. That's where you get sustainability at the quarterback position. And to me, like, I'm sure Bo Nix is going to look stronger in the quads. Like, that's a coach part. Like, he always talked. Like, we're going to look at a quarterback from the waist down. Like, you want them to look like Ben Roethlisberger and Cam Newton, like those guys. 2 years ago, 66 quarterbacks started. Last year, 59 quarterbacks started. Like, you need to be sturdy. So that's number one. Number two, Coach Payton's going to tell him, like, Bo, games are lost before they ever won. We got a really good, defense here. Like, let's make good decisions. So anyway, it's all like it's coming together for them. And look, Sean will be aggressive. He'll take his shots. He's obviously not bashful, but I think as the CEO strategist, he'll go into most games thinking like we're going to win a lot of games, because I don't think that offense will beat our defense. And I think Sean's one of the few guys that I've seen that's been able to wear those hats effectively, where he could be a play caller and a strategist. A lot of times you see former offensive coordinators become head coaches, and they call the game as a play caller, not as a head coach. And that's a very subtle but critically important difference.
Mike T, I 1000% agree. It's Sean's the best coach I played for in terms of that strategy, always being a teacher. He would always find different moments to teach within training camp, and throughout the season. And that's one of the things that he said that he learned from Parcells. We're about a week out from the draft. What's going on in the Broncos facility right now? How are the conversations going? How are they thinking about their first day one and day two picks?
Yeah, like, your plan's firmly etched in pencil. I was part of the most bizarre thing that ever happened in the draft. 2016 Miami Dolphins, the number one player on our board was Laramie Tunsil. We had a good left tackle in Brandon Albert. We had a gazillion needs, corner, defensive lineman. I would have bet my entire existence that Laramie Tunsil would not have been there at 13 if he was alive. And, soon before the draft, something came out about Laramie, who's still a great player and a very, very good person. And there we are. He fell on us, and for reasons that are incredible. So you want to be prepared. You just never know. When I was at the Jets, we needed a quarterback, and we're sitting there at 17, and I'm arguing with Matt Stafford's agent, Tom Connon, like, Tom, like, let us just visit with him. He's like, there's no way he's going to be at 17. I'm like, Tom, I know that. We got a plan. Let us just meet with him just in case. We were able to get up to 5. We took Mark Sanchez. We couldn't get from 5 to 1. But the point is, like, you have to be ready to go. You just don't know what's going to happen. And if the three of us were having this conversation literally, 2 weeks from today, all three of us would be like, I never saw that coming. Does Jackson Dart go before Shedeur Sanders? Like, you never know. And that's what's so intriguing about the draft.
How important are the scouts in terms of what they bring to a GM, or is it more the coaches? Like, what's the communication level in terms of like picking somebody?
Yeah, that is a great question. I think, again, it's organizational alignment. I was just talking about this on ESPN. The Giants are out doing private workouts now, which is very, very unusual. Like, the hay usually is in the barn. The point I made is there could be disagreements. Like, so again, if the three of us were running a team and I like Shedeur number 1, but you like Jackson Dart, and hey, Henry, you like, Tyler Shug, whatever it may be, you don't want to draft a player as a GM if the, in this case, quarterback coach, OC, isn't all in. And one of the signs we had in our draft room, guys, was in God we trust, for everyone else we need data, meaning we're going to be a process-driven organization, and let's have disagreements, and then let's watch more tape or call an agent or whatever the information we needed, to make the best decision possible. And again, like, the quarterback situation in New York's extremely complicated. They need a quarterback. Like, again, if we were running the Giants, guys, and every year we got Jalen Hurts, Jaden Daniels, and Dak Prescott, like, we need, the best quarterback we can get. I'm just surprised that they're doing all this work so close to the draft.
Jeez.
Yeah, no, that is kind of interesting. I'm curious how hard it is to build that consensus, though, because it seems like if you get a group of 5 people together with something so subjective, I mean, that seems like it could take hours to get everybody on the same page.
Yeah, absolutely. Or in my case, working with Rex, we were always like 1 or 2 emergency venti mocha frappuccinos away from making good decisions. And if he disagreed with me, I would get extra whipped cream, and then I would always get my way. So, look, you spend more time when you're a GM. You spend more time with the head coach than you do your wife. And look, I actually like that. And maybe that's this is not for the faint of heart, but my style was always like, hey, are you sure you want to do this? Like, really? Like, because if we do this, like, Rex, our starting guard is in the 3rd round. So when you're MFing me on Monday morning after opening day because the 3rd round guard whiffed, like, remember this conversation. Like, if we're going to overpay player X, like, we only have so much resources. That's what's so great about our sport. Like, it's not baseball where the Dodgers could just buy, like, you have to allocate your resources better than your competition. And the more you talk about the constraints you have, to me, you're refining your decision-making process.
Yeah, and the Broncos in particular right now, you're not paying your rookie quarterback. There's still the Russ dead cap hit, but it went down again this year. You didn't have a lot of great players on your rosters. There weren't a bunch of big contracts to begin with. Now you're kind of in this spot where, you can spend money wherever you want. You have all your draft picks back for the first time in half a decade. Like, this is the fun part of being a GM, right? Like, having all these resources building from right here when you have a couple of pieces that you found already.
Yeah, I think it's also more fundamentally, like, what does it look like in a year or two? Like, I think, not to simplify or journalize things, but the coach has to be day-to-day, moment-to-moment, Benny's hamstrings, bothering him. Like, we got to get somebody else into practice, like, in 10 minutes. The GM has to be a little bit more of, what does it look like in 6 months? And Henry, to your point, like, Russ's cap dollar was here, then it's here, and then it goes away. How can we take advantage of it? How can we structure a contract that way? If we get Surtain locked up, what does that mean? Who's going to graduate, right? Is Zach Allen, how's he going to handle that? Like, what does it mean for him? So you're constantly talking about those things. And you're right, like, from a GM perspective, your lens has to be, like, in my office, I always had like 3 depth charts. Like, the one in front of me was what it looked like today. The one on the right looked like 1 year from today. And the one on the left was the current roster of the other 3 teams in the division. And that was sort of like the lens of how I thought about things.
It's very complex. I mean, it reminds me a lot of just like, being a venture capitalist and, being funded with all these dollars and then finding the right resources. Not every company within the portfolio can get the same amount of money. You have to who has the most traction, who has the opportunity to exit. So yeah, it's incredible. Mike, we got just a couple more minutes left, man. Got a couple questions, but in terms of just the Broncos draft, you said they're going to draft. You think they'll draft Omarion Hampton? Tell us why you think that. They also got some receivers mocked to us, and then also defense. I think we might go defense just to continue to build around Bo. But tell us why you think they're going running back in the first round.
If we think about Sean Payton Saints, right? You had Drew Brees. Hopefully that's Bo Nix or close to it, right? And I think Ingram will be good, but Kamara was a big part of like their success. And Hampton's big, he's fast, he could catch, he could pass block, which is a non-negotiable for Sean. And if we were building a team where we could put Bo in the best position to be successful, let's get a big, fast, explosive back with great hands.
Yeah.
Henry, what do you think?
I mean, I'm not letting the Ashton Genty dream die until it's actually dead. Yesterday's video comes out.
It'll be dead by pick 7. It'll be a quick death, Henry. Like
even in the modern NFL. Oh, dang, that's not what I want to hear.
Pete Carroll sees Ashton Genty as his beast mode. Like you don't. There won't be a lot of suspense on that one. Like as much as I knew that Joe Alt was going to go to the Chargers a year ago because Jim Harbaugh's first pick was going to be an offensive lineman. Like to me, I would just be floored. Like if you think about the Raiders, like everything they're doing, I just can't imagine them not taking Genty.
At the same time, they've got all sorts of needs, though, right? Like there aren't too many spots where you would say, like, oh, why'd they take that? Basically, just tight end. As long as they don't take a tight end, you're going to say, like, oh, they needed that guy.
Yeah, no, that's fair. I think Genty has over 1,700 yards after contact, which is just like you talk about records that'll never be broken. Like if he had 1,700 yards, we'd be like, wow, that's an amazing season. I think he's just an amazing player. I think Hampton's really special to it. They can't go wrong. They'll get a really good player.
Amazing. And then, Mike, just got some rapid fire questions just about your position and the positions that you've played and just sat in. Most underrated player you've scouted?
Oh, man, that's a good question. Oh, boy. Jericho Cottrey.
Nice. I haven't heard that name in a while. Favorite draft pick during your tenure as a GM?
It was my first one as a GM, DeBrickashaw Ferguson. He never missed a play in his career. And, a lot of ways, like I want to resemble DeBrickashaw. Tough, smart, dependable, understated, same guy every day.
Love that. Biggest lesson learned from a draft day decision?
Yeah, we don't have enough time on this podcast. Take production over traits. Ask players to do exactly what you saw on tape, and don't be a moron and trade back when a player you want is on the draft, like is on the board, and try to pick up an extra pick. Just take the player.
Love that. And then last one piece of advice for aspiring NFL executives.
Be a great listener. Be a problem solver. Be empathetic.
Awesome. Henry, you got any questions?
I mean, maybe finish. What do you expect from the Broncos this year?
I think I want to see them play a one-game playoff with the Kansas City Chiefs, and it's going to be a low-scoring game. And it's been extremely impressive what they've done in a really short amount of time.
Awesome. Mike Tannenbaum, really appreciate you joining Henry and myself on Players Perspective, man. Thank you so much.
All right, guys. Thanks so much for having me. Really appreciate it.
Appreciate it.